The moment someone waits for your English answer, something changes. Your heart speeds up, your mind becomes crowded, and words you knew a second ago suddenly disappear. But your English is not gone. Pressure has simply blocked the path between your thoughts and your voice. Today, you will learn how to stay calm, begin speaking before fear takes control, and keep going even when your sentence is not perfect. Do not listen silently. Practice every method aloud, and stay until the final point because it will show you how to make your English survive real pressure. Before we begin, subscribe, like this video, and comment. Pressure will not silence my English. Lesson 1. Pressure is testing your mind, not your English. Let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever answered an English question perfectly while you were alone? But the moment someone looked at you and said, "Can you tell me about yourself?" your mind suddenly became empty. At that moment, you probably thought, maybe my English isn't good enough. But that is not the truth. Your English did not disappear. Your confidence did. And there is a huge difference between the two. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with everything you have learned, every word, every grammar rule, every sentence pattern, every hour of practice. Now imagine someone suddenly placing a heavy weight on your shoulders. Would the backpack disappear? No, it would simply become harder to carry. Pressure works exactly the same way. The English you have learned is still inside your mind. Pressure simply makes it more difficult to reach. This is why you can watch an English video and understand almost everything. You can read an article without much difficulty. You can even practice speaking alone with confidence. But the moment a real conversation begins, your brain starts asking dangerous questions. What if I make a mistake? What if they laugh at my English? What if I forget a word? What if I sound foolish? The conversation has not even started properly, and your mind is already fighting an imaginary battle. The problem is no longer English. The problem is fear. Your brain has switched from communication mode to survival mode. And when the brain believes you are in danger, it does not care about speaking perfect English. It only wants to protect you. That is why your heartbeat becomes faster. Your breathing becomes shorter. Your mouth feels dry. Your voice becomes quieter. Simple words suddenly feel difficult to remember. Nothing is wrong with your English. Your nervous system has simply taken control. Now here is the good news. Your mind can be trained to react differently. Every time you continue speaking despite feeling nervous, you teach your brain something powerful. You teach it that speaking English is not dangerous. You teach it that making mistakes is normal. You teach it that one forgotten word does not end a conversation. Little by little, your brain stops treating English like a threat, and when the feeling of danger disappears, your English begins to return naturally. So the next time you feel pressure, do not tell yourself, "My English is disappearing." Tell yourself, "My English is still here. I just need to stay calm long enough to reach it." That one thought changes everything, because fluent speakers are not fearless people. They are people who have trained their minds to keep speaking even when pressure tries to convince them to stop. And today, that is exactly what you are beginning to do. Lesson 2. Calm your body before you ask your mind to speak. Most learners try to fix pressure with more vocabulary, more grammar, or more preparation. But the first thing that needs help is not your English, it is your body. When your body becomes tense, your mind loses access to the words it already knows. Your breathing becomes shallow, your jaw becomes tight, and your voice begins to sound uncertain before the sentence has even started. You cannot demand calm English from a body that believes it is in danger. Think about what happens when someone suddenly asks you a question in English. Your shoulders may rise, your chest may tighten, and your eyes may begin searching for an escape. In that moment, your brain is not asking, "What is the best sentence?" It is asking, "How do I protect myself from embarrassment?" That is why simple words become difficult to reach. So before you search for vocabulary, calm the system that must carry the vocabulary. Take one slow breath, relax your shoulders, release your jaw, keep your feet steady. Let your hands move naturally instead of freezing them beside your body. These small physical changes send a powerful message to your mind. I am safe, I have time, I can answer. You do not need a long breathing exercise in the middle of a conversation. One calm breath can be enough to stop fear from taking complete control. Now imagine someone asks, "What do you think about this idea?" Do not rush into the answer. Begin with a familiar phrase. "That is an interesting question." Then breathe naturally and continue. "I think the idea could work, but it may need more time." That opening did two important things. It kept the conversation alive, and it gave your brain a few extra seconds to organize the message. This is why every learner should practice calm beginning phrases such as, "Let me think for a moment." I am not completely sure, but that depends on the situation. From my experience, these phrases are not signs of weakness, they are tools. They protect your mind from silence and give your body a clear first movement. There is another important habit you must develop. Stop speaking while holding your breath. Many learners take a small breath, begin a long sentence, and then rush because the air is disappearing. The voice becomes weak, the words become unclear, and panic increases. Instead, speak in small thought groups. Say, I think this method is useful, because it gives learners more confidence, and helps them respond faster. Each small group gives your body time to breathe and your mind time to prepare the next idea. Natural pauses are not failure, they are part of clear speaking. The goal is not to speak without stopping. The goal is to pause without panic. You should also practice calm English when you are alone. Sit or stand with relaxed shoulders, take one slow breath, and answer a simple question in a steady voice. Record yourself once. Listen not only to the grammar, but also to the tension. Does your voice become too quiet? Do you rush through the final words? Does your breathing disappear halfway through the sentence? Choose one physical habit and improve it. Maybe today you will focus only on relaxing your jaw. Tomorrow you may focus on breathing before the answer. Another day you may focus on keeping your voice strong until the final word. Small physical improvements create a much stronger speaking system. Remember, pressure begins in the body before it reaches the words. If you calm the body early, the mind has a better chance to stay clear. The next time someone asks you a difficult question, do not tell yourself, I must speak perfectly. Tell yourself, breathe, begin simply, continue calmly. That is how confidence is built. Not by forcing fear to disappear, but by teaching your body that it can remain steady while fear is still present. And once your body becomes calmer, the English inside your mind finally has space to come out. Lesson 3. Stop trying to build the perfect answer before you open your mouth. One of the biggest reasons English disappears under pressure is not because you don't know enough words. It is because you are trying to create the perfect answer before you allow yourself to speak the first sentence. This happens to almost every learner. Someone asks you a simple question. What do you usually do on weekends? The question is easy. You understand every word. You have answered this question before. But instead of opening your mouth, your mind immediately begins working like a machine under too much pressure. It starts searching for advanced vocabulary. It checks grammar. It worries about pronunciation. It compares several possible answers. It tries to avoid mistakes. It wants to sound intelligent. It wants to impress the listener. It wants every sentence to be perfect. And while your brain is trying to do all of that, the conversation keeps moving. The silence becomes longer. Your confidence becomes smaller. Then you finally say, sometimes, not because you don't know English, because you asked your mind to solve 10 different problems before saying even one word. Now think about how people naturally tell a story in their own language. Do they prepare every sentence before opening their mouth? Of course not. They begin with one idea. As they speak, the next idea naturally appears. Then another. Then another. The conversation grows while they are speaking. Fluent English speakers do exactly the same thing. They do not carry an entire conversation inside their head before they begin talking. They trust themselves enough to discover the answer while speaking. That is one of the greatest habits you must build. Instead of asking yourself, what is the perfect answer? Ask yourself, what is the simplest first sentence I can say right now? That one question removes enormous pressure from your mind. Suppose someone asks, what is your biggest goal? Many learners immediately start creating a long speech. They want to explain everything perfectly. Instead, begin with one simple sentence. My biggest goal is to become a confident English speaker. That is enough. Now your mouth is moving. The conversation is alive. Your brain is no longer trapped inside silence. Now add another sentence. I want to speak naturally without translating every thought. Then continue. I practice every day because I know consistency is more important than perfection. Notice what happened. You did not prepare the entire answer before speaking. You built it while speaking. That is exactly how natural conversations work. Think of building a house. Nobody places the roof before laying the foundation. Nobody installs the windows before building the walls. Everything happens one step at a time. Your English should grow exactly the same way. The first sentence is your foundation. The second sentence builds the walls. The third sentence adds details. The fourth sentence completes the picture. When learners try to build the entire house before placing the first brick, they freeze. There is another mistake that creates unnecessary pressure. Many learners believe every answer must sound different from the previous one. They become afraid of repeating useful sentence patterns, but fluent speakers repeat patterns every single day. Listen carefully to native English conversations. You will hear the same beginnings again and again. I think, in my opinion, the reason is, I believe, personally, what happened was, one thing I noticed. These are not signs of weak English. They are signs of efficient English. Your speaking system becomes faster when familiar patterns become automatic. That is why you should build your own collection of trusted sentence starters. When someone asks a question, your mouth should already know how to begin. For example, I think, the biggest reason is, from my experience, I've noticed that. The first thing I'd say is, these openings remove the hardest part of speaking, beginning. Once you have started, your ideas usually continue much more naturally. There is another technique that can completely change the way you answer questions. Instead of trying to create one long perfect sentence, imagine you are stacking small building blocks. Each sentence is one block. My English has improved. Another block. But I still become nervous during conversations. Another block. That is why I practice speaking every day. Another block. I know confidence comes through repetition. Each block is simple. Together they create a powerful answer. Most learners try to lift the entire building at once. Fluent speakers simply add one block after another. That is why they rarely feel overwhelmed. Now let me give you another powerful habit. The moment someone asks you a question, answer within 3 seconds. Not with a perfect answer, with a simple beginning. Do not give fear enough time to grow. The longer you wait, the louder your inner critic becomes. First it says, maybe this answer isn't good enough. Then, perhaps I should choose better words. Then, what if my grammar is wrong? Finally, maybe I shouldn't speak at all. All of that happened because you waited too long. Action is the enemy of overthinking. The sooner your mouth begins moving, the less opportunity fear has to control the conversation. Another reason learners freeze is because they believe every conversation is an examination. It isn't. Most people are not checking every grammar rule you use. They are listening for your message. Imagine speaking with a friend. Would you stop listening just because they forgot one word? Of course not. You would naturally continue listening because communication is more important than perfection. The same is true when you speak English. People want your ideas, not your perfect grammar. This is why you should stop trying to sound impressive. Start trying to sound clear. Clear communication always wins. Simple communication always creates more confidence, and confidence naturally leads to better English. As your confidence grows, your sentences will also grow. But never force that process. Allow it to happen naturally. One sentence, then another, then another. That is how fluent conversations are created. There is one final truth I want you to remember whenever pressure appears. Your first sentence is not supposed to carry your entire conversation. Its only job is to open the door. Once the door is open, your ideas can walk through one by one. So the next time someone asks you an English question, stop trying to build the perfect answer inside your head. Build it with your voice. Begin with one simple sentence. Trust yourself enough to continue. Allow each new sentence to grow from the previous one, because fluency is not the ability to prepare perfect answers before speaking. Fluency is the ability to discover your best answers while you are already speaking. The moment you understand this, pressure begins to lose its power, your confidence begins to grow, and your English finally starts flowing the way it was always meant to. Lesson 4. Stop judging every sentence while you are still speaking. There is one habit that quietly destroys more English conversations than poor grammar, limited vocabulary, or weak pronunciation. It is the habit of judging yourself while you are still speaking. Most learners do not realize they are doing it because it happens so quickly. The moment they begin answering a question, another voice immediately appears inside their mind. Was that the correct tense? Oh, did I pronounce that word correctly? Maybe I should have used another word. That sentence didn't sound natural. They're probably noticing every mistake. Now think about what has happened. You are trying to speak English, while another part of your brain is acting like a strict examiner. One part is trying to communicate. The other part is criticizing every word before the sentence is even finished. No one can speak naturally under those conditions. Imagine trying to drive a car while someone beside you grabs the steering wheel every 5 seconds. You would never feel relaxed. You would constantly lose your direction. That is exactly what self-judgment does to your English. Every time your speaking machine begins to move forward, your inner critic pulls it backward. Soon your confidence disappears. Not because your English became worse, but because your attention left the conversation and became trapped inside your own thoughts. Now let me ask you something. When you are talking to a close friend in your native language, do you stop after every sentence to analyze your grammar? Do you think about every verb, every pause, every word choice? Of course not. Your attention stays on your message. Your thoughts continue flowing because your goal is communication. English should become exactly the same. Your first responsibility is not to produce perfect English. Your first responsibility is to keep the conversation alive. That single change in mindset can completely transform the way you speak. Many learners believe fluent speakers never make mistakes. That is simply not true. Native speakers make grammar mistakes. They forget words. They restart sentences. They change their minds halfway through an explanation. They accidentally repeat ideas. They even correct themselves while speaking. The difference is that they never allow one mistake to stop the conversation. Their speaking machine keeps moving. Think about watching a professional football player. Do they stop playing because they made one bad pass? Of course not. They recover immediately. The game continues. If they spent the next 5 minutes thinking about one mistake, they would make 10 more mistakes. English conversations work exactly the same way. Recovery is always more valuable than perfection. Suppose you are answering a question. You say, "Yesterday I go to." Immediately you realize the mistake. Many learners panic. They stop. They apologize. They become embarrassed. They lose the rest of their answer. Instead, calmly continue. "Yesterday I went to the city with my friend, and we spent the afternoon exploring a new cafe." Notice what happened. The correction lasted less than 1 second. The conversation survived. That is how confident speakers think. They fix. They continue. They never build a home inside one small mistake. There is another dangerous habit that creates unnecessary pressure. Many learners believe people are paying far more attention to their mistakes than they actually are. This is called the spotlight effect. You believe everyone notices every small error. In reality, most people are listening to your message. Imagine someone speaking your language with 1 or 2 small grammar mistakes. Would you spend the entire conversation counting those mistakes? Probably not. You would naturally focus on understanding their ideas. The same thing happens when you speak English. Most listeners want communication, not perfection. The pressure you feel is often much greater than the pressure other people place on you. That is why you must stop trying to become a perfect speaker. Become a clear speaker. Clear communication creates confidence. Confidence creates fluency. Fluency gradually improves accuracy. The order matters. Many learners try to reverse it. They wait until their English becomes perfect before allowing themselves to feel confident. That day never arrives. Confidence grows because you continue speaking despite imperfection. There is another technique that every learner should practice: separate speaking from correcting. These are 2 completely different skills. When you are speaking, your only job is communication. When the conversation finishes, then you become the student. Listen to your recording. Notice 3 things you did well. Then choose only 1 thing to improve next time. Do not create a list of 20 mistakes. Your brain learns best when improvement feels achievable. Today you may focus on pronunciation. Tomorrow you may improve sentence beginnings. Next week you may work on longer answers. 1 improvement at a time creates lasting confidence. Trying to fix everything at once creates frustration. Now let me tell you something that changed the way many successful learners practiced English. After every conversation, instead of asking, "How many mistakes did I make?" ask yourself, "Did I communicate my idea? Did I stay calm? Did I continue speaking after making a mistake? Did I finish my answer instead of giving up?" If the answer is yes, then that conversation was a success, because communication is the real purpose of language. Grammar supports communication. It does not replace it. There is another reason self-judgment becomes so powerful. Many learners compare themselves to fluent speakers every single day. They watch someone who has spoken English for 20 years, then criticize themselves after studying for only 1 or 2 years. That comparison is unfair. Imagine learning to play the piano. Would you compare your first year with a concert pianist who has practiced for decades? Of course not. You would compare yourself with the person you were last month. English deserves the same patience. Instead of asking, "Why don't I sound like a native speaker?" ask, "Am I speaking more confidently than I did last month? Do I hesitate less than before?" Can I explain my ideas more clearly? Those are the questions that build confidence. Progress is not measured against someone else's journey. It is measured against your own. There is another hidden secret that many fluent speakers understand. A conversation is not a grammar competition. It is an exchange of ideas, emotions, stories, opinions, and experiences. People remember how you made them feel far more than they remember one incorrect verb tense. If you smile naturally, listen carefully, show interest, and communicate clearly, people will enjoy talking with you. That is far more important than producing perfect sentences every time. Now imagine two learners. The first learner speaks with advanced vocabulary but constantly apologizes, stops, restarts, and criticizes every sentence. The second learner uses simpler English but speaks calmly, smiles naturally, continues after mistakes, and keeps the conversation flowing. Who sounds more confident? Almost always the second learner. Confidence is not built from difficult words. It is built from continuous communication. Every conversation teaches your speaking machine something valuable. Every recovery strengthens your confidence. Every completed answer proves that you are capable of more than your fear wants you to believe. One day you will finish an English conversation and suddenly realize something surprising. You made several small mistakes, but the conversation was successful. The other person understood you. They smiled. They answered. The discussion continued naturally. At that moment, you will understand one of the greatest truths about language learning. People are not waiting for perfect English. They are waiting for real communication. The moment you stop judging every sentence while you are still speaking, your mind becomes quieter, your confidence becomes stronger, your thoughts begin flowing more naturally, and your English finally receives the freedom it has needed all along. So from today onward, make yourself one promise. Do not become your own biggest obstacle. Become your own biggest supporter. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Allow yourself to learn. Allow yourself to continue. Because every fluent English speaker you admire today reached fluency the same way. Not by speaking perfectly from the beginning, but by refusing to stop every time they spoke imperfectly. That is the habit that transforms nervous learners into confident speakers, and it can transform you too. Lesson 5. Build a mind that keeps speaking even when it doesn't know the perfect word. There is one belief that quietly destroys thousands of English conversations every single day. It is the belief that you must know the perfect word before you can continue speaking. The moment one word disappears, many learners believe the entire conversation has failed. They stop. They apologize. They become embarrassed. They begin translating again. Then they lose the next sentence, the next idea, and finally their confidence. But let me ask you something important. Have you ever forgotten a word in your own language? Of course you have. Did the conversation end? Did everyone stand up and walk away because you could not remember one word? No, you simply explained it another way. You used different words. You pointed at something. You described the idea until the other person understood you. You didn't stop communicating because one word disappeared. So why should English be any different? One forgotten word should never have the power to stop an entire conversation. The truth is, fluent speakers do not continue speaking because they know every English word. They continue speaking because they have trained their minds to keep moving even when the perfect word refuses to appear. That is one of the biggest differences between confident speakers and nervous learners. A nervous learner thinks, I forgot the word, I have to stop. A fluent speaker thinks, I forgot the word, let me explain it differently. Notice how different those two reactions are. One reaction creates silence, the other creates communication. Imagine someone asks, what did you do yesterday? You begin answering confidently, I went to the... Suddenly, the word museum disappears. Many learners immediately panic. Their mind says, I don't know the word anymore. Everything is ruined. I'll just stop talking. But a fluent mind responds differently. I went to a place where people keep old historical objects, paintings, and ancient things. The listener immediately understands. The conversation continues. Communication wins. That is exactly how your mind must learn to think. Instead of asking, how do I remember every word? Start asking, how many different ways can I explain one idea? That single question changes the entire purpose of speaking. Your goal is no longer perfect vocabulary. Your goal becomes successful communication. Now let us make this practical. Suppose you forget the word umbrella. Instead of freezing, you say, the thing people carry when it rains. Forget the word wallet. Say, the small thing where I keep my money and cards. Forget the word refrigerator. Say, the big machine in the kitchen that keeps food cold. Forget the word photographer. Say, the person who takes professional pictures. Forget the word passport. Say, the document people use when they travel to another country. Notice something interesting. You are still speaking English. In fact, you are using even more English than before. Instead of depending on one vocabulary word, you are using complete ideas. That is real fluency. Real fluency is not memorizing every word in the dictionary. Real fluency is having enough confidence to explain your meaning from different directions until the listener understands you. There is another habit that makes pressure much worse. Many learners become emotionally attached to every single sentence. If one sentence goes badly, they believe the entire conversation has failed. Imagine climbing a staircase. Would you return to the ground floor because you stumbled on one step? Of course not. You simply continue climbing. English conversation should be treated exactly the same way. One weak sentence does not define the conversation. One forgotten word does not define your English. One pronunciation mistake does not define your ability. Every sentence is simply another step. Keep climbing. There is another powerful technique that almost nobody teaches. Learn replacement phrases before you need them. When your mind suddenly becomes empty, these phrases become bridges that keep your conversation alive. For example, let me explain that another way. What I'm trying to say is, the main idea is, I can't remember the exact word, but it's something like, the best way I can describe it is. These expressions are incredibly powerful because they remove panic. Instead of stopping completely, your mouth keeps moving while your brain quietly searches for the missing information. That is exactly how fluent speakers recover. Recovery is not an accident, it is a skill. And like every skill, it becomes stronger through repetition. There is another important truth every learner needs to hear. The person listening to you usually knows far less about your English than you think. They do not know which words you intended to use. They do not know which grammar rule you almost remembered. They only hear the message you actually produce. That means your biggest enemy is often not your English. It is your imagination. You imagine people judging every sentence. You imagine them noticing every pause. You imagine them counting every grammar mistake. In reality, most people simply want to understand you. Communication is a partnership. The listener is not your examiner. The listener is your teammate. Both of you are trying to reach understanding together. When you begin thinking this way, the pressure becomes much smaller. There is another exercise that can completely transform your confidence. Every day choose 5 simple objects around you. A chair, a phone, a cup, a notebook, a lamp. Now imagine you have forgotten every one of those words. Describe each object without using its name. The thing people sit on. The object I use to call my family. The container I drink coffee from. The book where I write ideas. The light beside my desk. This exercise teaches your brain an extraordinary lesson. There is always another way. The mind slowly stops fearing forgotten vocabulary because it begins trusting its ability to explain ideas. That trust becomes confidence. Confidence becomes fluency. Another reason learners freeze is because they believe speaking quickly is the goal. It isn't. Communication is the goal. Sometimes speaking a little more slowly actually produces much stronger English. When you slow down slightly, your brain has more time to organize ideas. Your pronunciation becomes clearer. Your breathing becomes calmer. Your confidence becomes stronger. Remember, listeners would rather hear slow, clear English than fast, confusing English. Speed comes naturally later. Clarity comes first. There is another secret that successful English learners understand. They celebrate recovery, not perfection. Suppose today you forgot 3 words during a conversation. Months ago, those 3 forgotten words would have completely stopped you. Today you explained all 3 using different sentences. That is enormous progress. Do not focus only on what you forgot. Focus on how well you recovered. Recovery is proof that your speaking mind is becoming flexible. And flexibility is one of the greatest signs of fluency. Now imagine 2 learners. The first learner memorizes thousands of difficult words but becomes silent whenever one disappears. The second learner knows fewer words but can explain almost anything using simple English. Who will communicate more successfully? Almost always the second learner. Because language is not about showing how many words you know. It is about helping another human being understand your ideas. That is why simple English spoken confidently often creates stronger communication than advanced English spoken with fear. Now let me leave you with one final thought. From today onward, stop treating forgotten words as failures. Treat them as opportunities to become a more creative speaker. Every missing word challenges your mind to build another path. Every alternative explanation strengthens your confidence. Every successful recovery teaches your brain that communication does not depend on perfection. One day you will be having a conversation in English. You will forget an important word. Months ago you would have frozen. Today something different will happen. Without panic, without embarrassment, without apologizing, you will simply smile and explain the idea another way. The listener will understand. The conversation will continue, and only afterward will you realize something remarkable. You didn't need the perfect word. You only needed the courage to keep speaking. That is the day your mind stops fearing pressure. That is the day your confidence becomes stronger than your vocabulary. And that is the day you begin speaking English the way fluent speakers truly do, not because they know every word, but because they never allow one missing word to silence their voice. Lesson 6. Train your mind to keep speaking even when pressure refuses to leave. Many English learners believe that one day they will wake up, feel completely confident, and then finally begin speaking naturally. That day almost never comes, not because confidence is impossible, but because confidence is never the starting point. It is the reward that comes after hundreds of conversations where you chose to continue speaking even while your heart was beating faster than usual. This is one of the biggest misunderstandings in language learning. People wait for fear to disappear before they begin speaking. Fluent speakers begin speaking, and that is exactly how fear slowly disappears. Think about learning to swim. If you stood beside the pool saying, "I will enter the water after I stop being afraid of it," you might wait forever. The only way your mind learns that the water is safe is by entering it little by little. First you touch the water, then you stand in the shallow end, then you begin moving, then one day you suddenly realize you are swimming without constantly thinking about drowning. English conversations work in exactly the same way. Your mind must collect experiences that prove speaking English is safe. No book can give you those experiences. No grammar lesson can replace them. Only speaking can create them. Every conversation becomes evidence. Every completed answer becomes evidence. Every recovered mistake becomes evidence. Every moment you continue speaking instead of giving up becomes evidence. Little by little, your brain begins changing one powerful belief. Instead of believing, speaking English is dangerous, it starts believing, speaking English is normal. That single change transforms everything. Now let me ask you another question. Why do you think experienced drivers remain calm during heavy traffic while new drivers become nervous? The road is exactly the same. The traffic is exactly the same. The weather is exactly the same. The difference is not the road. The difference is experience. The experienced driver has already solved similar situations hundreds of times. The brain no longer sees them as emergencies. English works exactly the same way. The first difficult conversation feels overwhelming. The 10th feels uncomfortable. The 50th feels manageable. The 100th feels almost ordinary. Nothing magical happened. Your mind simply collected enough successful experiences to stop treating English as a threat. That is why your goal should never be, "I hope I never feel nervous again." Your goal should be, "I will become someone who keeps speaking even while feeling nervous." There is enormous freedom in that sentence, because now your progress no longer depends on waiting for perfect confidence. It depends on building stronger habits. Imagine two learners. The first learner only speaks when they feel completely ready. The second learner speaks every day, even if the voice shakes a little. At first, the first learner seems more comfortable. But after 6 months, something surprising happens. The second learner becomes calmer. The first learner becomes even more afraid. Why? Because fear grows in places where experience never enters. Confidence grows wherever experience is repeated. This is why avoiding pressure actually makes pressure stronger. Every conversation you avoid silently teaches your brain, "This situation must be dangerous because I keep escaping from it." The next conversation becomes even more frightening. But every conversation you complete sends the opposite message. "Nothing terrible happened. I survived. I communicated. I can do this again." That is exactly how confidence is built, one successful experience at a time. Now let us talk about something that almost every learner experiences. The conversation starts well. You answer the first question confidently. Then suddenly someone asks something unexpected. Immediately, your speaking speed slows down, your breathing changes, your confidence drops. Many learners believe this means they are moving backwards. It doesn't. Unexpected questions are simply revealing which parts of your speaking system still need practice. That is valuable information. Never become discouraged because pressure exposed a weakness. Be grateful because it showed you exactly what to improve. Suppose someone asks, "What would you do if you could travel anywhere in the world?" You hesitate, not because your English disappeared, because your mind has never practiced answering unexpected questions. Wonderful. Now you know tomorrow's practice. Spend 10 minutes answering random questions aloud. Not because you want perfect answers, because you want your mind to become comfortable thinking while speaking. That ability is one of the greatest differences between nervous learners and fluent communicators. Another powerful habit is deliberately placing yourself in small amounts of pressure every day. Notice I said small amounts. Do not jump immediately into the most difficult conversation you can imagine. Build confidence the same way athletes build strength. Gradually, speak alone. Then record yourself. Then send a voice message. Then speak with one trusted friend. Then join a short conversation. Then answer questions from strangers online. Every step stretches your confidence without breaking it. Small victories create enormous long-term results. Another important lesson is learning how to restart your thinking after your mind suddenly becomes blank. Every learner experiences this moment. Halfway through a sentence, everything disappears. Many people panic. Instead, train yourself to restart with simple bridge phrases. For example, "Let me think about that for a second." "That's a good question. Here's what I think. Let me explain it differently." The first thing that comes to my mind is. These phrases are incredibly powerful. They keep your speaking machine alive while your brain quietly organizes the next idea. Silence feeds fear. Movement feeds confidence. Always choose movement. There is another secret that confident speakers understand. They never expect every conversation to feel amazing. Some conversations will feel easy. Some will feel difficult. Some days your English will flow beautifully. Other days you will struggle with simple sentences. This happens to everyone, even professional speakers, even teachers, even native speakers. Do not judge your entire journey because of one difficult conversation. Imagine going to the gym. One difficult workout does not mean you became weaker. It usually means your muscles are becoming stronger. Pressure works exactly the same way. Every challenging conversation is another workout for your speaking mind. The goal is not comfort. The goal is growth. Growth often feels uncomfortable before it feels natural. There is another powerful exercise that very few learners use. At the end of every conversation, ask yourself 3 questions. What did I do well? Where did pressure appear? What will I practice tomorrow? These 3 questions keep your attention on improvement instead of disappointment. Never finish practice by saying, "My English is terrible." Finish by saying, "Tomorrow I know exactly what I will improve." That simple change protects your confidence while still encouraging progress. Remember, successful learners are not people who never make mistakes. They are people who know how to learn from every mistake without losing motivation. Now let us imagine something together. Picture yourself 6 months from today. Someone suddenly asks you an unexpected question in English. Your heart still beats a little faster, but something is different. Instead of freezing, you smile. You take one calm breath. You begin with a familiar sentence. Your ideas continue flowing. You forget one word. You explain it another way. You make one grammar mistake. You correct it naturally and continue. The conversation ends. You walk away feeling proud, not because your English was perfect, but because pressure no longer controlled your voice. That is real confidence, not the absence of nervousness, the ability to keep moving while nervousness is still present. Never forget this truth. Pressure is not your enemy. Pressure is your teacher. Every conversation under pressure teaches your mind another lesson. Every lesson makes your speaking system stronger. Every repetition makes your confidence more stable. Every completed conversation becomes another piece of evidence that you are becoming the English speaker you have always wanted to be. One day you will look back and smile at the version of yourself who believed pressure could steal your English forever, because you will finally understand something extraordinary. Pressure never took your English away. It simply challenged you to build a stronger mind. And once your mind becomes stronger than your fear, your English will finally become stronger than your pressure. Lesson 7. Build a daily pressure practice that makes calm English automatic. There is one final truth you must understand if you want your English to remain available under pressure. Confidence is not built by waiting for difficult conversations to happen. It is built by creating small, controlled pressure every day until your mind stops treating English like an emergency. Most learners practice only when they feel comfortable. They sit in a quiet room, choose an easy topic, prepare the answer, and speak when nobody is watching. That kind of practice is useful, but it is not enough. It teaches your mind how to speak in perfect conditions, while real conversations are almost never perfect. Real conversations contain surprise. Someone may ask a question you did not expect. They may speak faster than you imagined. They may interrupt you, misunderstand you, or wait silently while you search for words. Your heart may beat faster. Your voice may feel smaller. Your thoughts may become crowded. This is exactly why your practice must slowly become more realistic. You do not need to create extreme pressure. You need to create manageable pressure. Pressure that challenges you, but does not crush you. Pressure that teaches your mind, I can still speak here. Begin with the 3-second response rule. Ask yourself a question and begin answering within 3 seconds. Do not prepare a perfect sentence. Do not translate the whole answer. Just start. Ask yourself, what did I do today? Begin with, today I. Ask yourself, what is one thing I want to improve? Begin with, one thing I want to improve is. Ask yourself, what makes a good friend? Begin with, I think a good friend is someone who. Your first sentence does not need to be brilliant. It only needs to begin before fear becomes louder. That is the purpose of this exercise. You are teaching your mind to move before overthinking takes control. Next, practice 1 minute of continuous speaking. Choose one simple topic and speak for 1 minute without stopping completely. You may pause briefly to breathe. You may repeat an idea. You may use simple vocabulary. But do not end the exercise because one word disappears. If you forget a word, describe it. If you lose the sentence, restart it. If you make a mistake, correct it quickly and continue. The goal is not perfect English. The goal is continuity. Continuity is one of the greatest forms of speaking strength because pressure becomes powerful only when it convinces you to stop. The moment you continue, even imperfectly, pressure begins losing control. You should also practice unexpected questions. Write 20 questions on small pieces of paper and place them in a box. Do not prepare the answers. Pick one question randomly and respond immediately. Questions such as, what is one decision that changed your life? What would you do if you had more free time? What is something you used to believe but no longer believe? What makes people lose confidence? What is one habit you want to build? What is something difficult you have learned? Some questions will feel easy, others will make your mind pause. That pause is useful. It reveals where pressure still affects you. Do not avoid the difficult question, stay with it. Begin with a safe phrase. That is an interesting question. I have never thought about that before. The first thing that comes to mind is, I am not completely sure but. Then continue. These phrases are not empty words, they are bridges. They keep your mouth moving while your mind builds the next idea. Another powerful practice is speaking while doing something simple. Walk around your room while describing your day. Prepare tea while explaining your plans. Organize your desk while talking about one problem you solved. Stand beside a window and describe what you see. Why does this help? Because it teaches your mind that English can exist while life is moving. Your body learns that speaking does not require perfect silence, perfect posture, or perfect concentration. English begins to feel more natural because it becomes part of ordinary action. You should also practice with light background noise. Play quiet cafe sounds or soft conversation sounds in the background. Keep the volume low enough that you can still think clearly. Then answer questions or tell a short story. At first, the noise may distract you. Over time, your mind learns to stay focused. This is important because many real conversations happen in restaurants, offices, shops, streets, airports, or busy homes. Your English must learn to survive imperfect environments. Another essential practice is the interruption exercise. Begin telling a story. After 30 seconds, stop and answer a different question. Then return to the original story. For example, begin speaking about your weekend. Then suddenly ask yourself, what is one goal I have for next month? Answer briefly, then return by saying, as I was saying about my weekend. This exercise teaches your mind how to recover after the conversation changes direction. Real people interrupt. They ask new questions. They remember another idea. They change the topic. If your English depends on one fixed path, one interruption can destroy your confidence. If your mind learns flexibility, you can leave the path and return without panic. You must also practice clarification. Many learners feel pressure because they believe they must understand every word immediately. The moment they miss one sentence, they pretend to understand, become anxious, and lose the rest of the conversation. Confident speakers do not pretend, they clarify. Practice saying, "Could you repeat the last part? Did you say Monday or Tuesday? I understood the beginning, but I missed the final sentence. Do you mean that the plan has changed? Could you explain that in another way?" These phrases give you control. They remind your mind that misunderstanding is not a disaster, it is simply a moment that can be repaired. Your daily pressure practice should also include recovery phrases. Suppose your sentence becomes confused. Instead of fighting inside the broken sentence, restart calmly. Say, "Let me explain that more clearly. What I mean is, the main point is, let me say that another way." Then begin again with a simpler sentence. This is one of the strongest speaking habits you can build. Confidence does not mean never losing a sentence. Confidence means knowing how to rebuild it. Another valuable practice is voice recording. Choose one question and record a 2-minute answer. Do not restart the recording every time you make a mistake. Finish the answer completely. Then listen once. Do not attack yourself. Choose 3 things you did well. Maybe you began quickly. Maybe your voice stayed strong. Maybe you explained a missing word. Maybe you continued after a mistake. Then choose one thing to improve next time. Only one. Perhaps you need clearer pauses. Perhaps you need a stronger ending. Perhaps you need to avoid one repeated word. Focused correction builds progress. Constant criticism builds fear. The purpose of recording is not to prove that your English is imperfect. You already know you are still learning. The purpose is to show you that you can complete a response under pressure and improve one step at a time. You should also create a pressure ladder. Start with the easiest situation and slowly move toward harder ones. Level 1. Speak alone. Level 2. Record your voice. Level 3. Send yourself a voice message. Level 4. Speak with one trusted person. Level 5. Answer unexpected questions. Level 6. Join a short group conversation. Level 7. Speak in a situation that once made you nervous. Do not jump from complete silence to the most difficult level and then blame yourself for feeling afraid. Confidence grows through gradual exposure. A person does not become strong by lifting the heaviest weight on the first day. They begin with something manageable, repeat it, recover, and slowly increase the challenge. Your speaking mind develops in the same way. There is another important part of daily pressure practice: emotional control. Before speaking, notice what your body is doing. Are your shoulders tense? Is your jaw tight? Are you holding your breath? Is your voice becoming smaller? Do not fight the feeling. Notice it and soften it. Take one slow breath. Relax your shoulders. Look forward. Begin with a familiar phrase. Your goal is not to remove every nervous feeling. Your goal is to stop the feeling from controlling the conversation. This is a powerful distinction. You do not need to feel fearless. You need to become functional while fear is present. That is what real confidence looks like. At the end of every practice session, finish with success. Do not end immediately after a mistake. Ask yourself one easy question and answer it calmly. Say one sentence you know well. Repeat one phrase with confidence. Why does this matter? Because your mind remembers emotional endings. If every practice ends with frustration, your brain begins connecting English with failure. If every practice ends with one completed sentence, your brain stores evidence of success. Confidence is built from evidence. Every time you finish, your mind remembers, "I can complete an answer." Every time you recover, it remembers, "A mistake cannot stop me." Every time you speak while nervous, it remembers, "Pressure is uncomfortable, but it is not dangerous." These memories slowly become stronger than fear. You should also measure progress correctly. Do not ask only, "Was my grammar perfect?" Ask, "Did I begin faster than before? Did I stay calmer? Did I speak longer? Did I recover after forgetting a word? Did I ask for clarification? Did I finish the idea?" These are real signs of speaking growth. One day you may still make several grammar mistakes, but you will answer quickly, continue calmly, and communicate clearly. That is enormous progress. Fluency is not only accuracy, it is access, continuation, recovery, and confidence. Create a simple daily routine. Spend 2 minutes calming your body and breathing naturally. Spend 5 minutes answering random questions. Spend 5 minutes speaking continuously about one topic. Spend 5 minutes listening and responding. Spend 3 minutes practicing clarification and recovery phrases. Spend one final minute ending with a confident sentence. This routine does not require hours, it requires consistency. 20 minutes of focused pressure practice every day can change your speaking more than several hours of passive learning once a week. Why? Because your mind learns through repeated experience. Every day it receives the same message: English is safe. I can think while speaking. I can continue without perfect words. I can recover. I can handle pressure. Little by little, your nervous system begins believing those messages. The heartbeat becomes calmer. The silence becomes shorter. The first sentence comes faster. The voice becomes stronger. The difficult question becomes manageable. The unfamiliar conversation becomes another opportunity instead of another threat. This change will not always feel dramatic. Some days you may believe nothing is improving. Keep going. Confidence often grows quietly. Then one ordinary day, someone will ask you a question you did not expect. You will feel the pressure, but instead of freezing, you will breathe. You will begin with a familiar phrase. You will build the answer one sentence at a time. You may forget one word and describe it differently. You may correct one mistake. You may pause, but you will not panic. You will finish. After the conversation ends, you will realize that something inside you has changed. Pressure arrived, but it did not silence you. That moment will not be luck. It will be the result of every 3-second response, every random question, every voice recording, every recovery phrase, every clarification, and every imperfect answer you refuse to abandon. That is how calm English becomes automatic, not because pressure disappears, because your mind becomes experienced enough to keep speaking while pressure is still there. So from today, stop waiting for confidence. Practice the situations that create it. Speak before you feel fully ready. Continue before the sentence feels perfect. Recover before embarrassment takes control. Finish before fear convinces you to stop. Every day, give your mind one more reason to trust your English, because the strongest speaker is not the person who never feels pressure. The strongest speaker is the person who has practiced so consistently that pressure can no longer close the door between their thoughts and their voice. Before you leave, remember this one truth: your English is not weak simply because pressure sometimes makes it difficult to speak. Pressure does not erase your ability. It reveals which part of your speaking still needs more practice. Every time your heart beats faster and you choose to answer anyway, you become stronger. Every time you forget a word and explain it differently, you become more flexible. Every time you make a mistake and continue, you teach your mind that one imperfect sentence cannot destroy a conversation. That is how real confidence is built, not in perfect silence, not through endless waiting, not after fear disappears. Confidence is built in the exact moment when fear is present and you still decide to speak. So the next time someone asks you a question in English, do not search for the most impressive answer. Take one calm breath. Begin with one simple sentence. Add one reason. Give one example. Let the answer grow while you are speaking. And when a word disappears, do not disappear with it. Describe it. Replace it. Restart the sentence. Keep the meaning alive, because fluent speakers are not people who never struggle. They are people who have learned how to continue through the struggle. One day, someone will ask you an unexpected question. Pressure will arrive, but this time it will find a different version of you. Your shoulders will remain relaxed. Your mind will stay present. Your mouth will begin before doubt becomes too loud, and your English will continue one sentence at a time. Afterward, you may realize that your answer was not perfect, but it was real, it was clear, it was yours, and you finished it. That moment will be proof that pressure no longer controls your voice. So do not wait until you feel fearless. Speak while nervous. Do not wait until every sentence is perfect. Communicate with the English you have today. Do not wait for confidence to come and rescue you. Build confidence by showing your mind that you can survive every pause, every mistake, and every difficult question. Your English is still inside you. Your voice is still yours, and pressure does not have the right to silence either one. Before you leave, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and write in the comments. I will stay calm and keep speaking. Say it today, practice it tomorrow, live it in every conversation. Because the goal is not to remove pressure from English, the goal is to become the speaker who remains stronger than it.